What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we know that Nintendo had to deal with several challenges early on for the Switch when it comes to the hacking scene, and now it appears they could be facing a new challenger, and this one might be a little harder to deal with than your typical mod chip. We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about that Microsoft Activision deal once again, as there's a new concession that was made public. Seems to be confusing a lot of people. And we'll also be talking about Hogwarts Legacy. It was delayed into 2023, and now we have official release dates for the PS4, Xbox One, and the Switch. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Sonic Frontiers. We did see it in the top 5 for the NPD, which was great to see Sonic Frontiers at least climb up the sales charts there, especially in a pretty busy month of November with games like Pokemon and God of War. Well, now we have an update for the sales from Sega. We can see this over on Twitter from their official account saying Sonic Frontiers sells over 2.5 million copies worldwide. This within about a month or so of sales. That seems to be pretty good. I will say the Sonic games previously, the 3D ones, even like Sonic Forces, sold well enough within their expectations to make money. So Sonic's never really had an issue when it comes to sales of their games. It's mostly the critical side of things with Metacritic. And I know Sonic Frontiers didn't exactly like set the world on fire when it comes to a Metacritic score, but it has people very interested in the future of Sonic, and we're seeing the sales kind of align with that. And I'll also admit I am interested, more so than before, with where they will take things going forward with the next iteration of Sonic Frontiers. They've mentioned they'll continue to build on this open zone concept, so yeah, I'll be keeping an eye out for Sonic Frontiers 2 and have more interest in that than I would have with Sonic Forces 2. But if anything here, Sonic Frontiers off to a good start in terms of sales. Also, if you are currently an Amazon Prime subscriber, there will be several games you can claim later on this month as Amazon's doing like their Amazon Gaming holiday giveaway sort of. You can see this post up. It's a list over on GameSpot. These games will be available to claim December 27th to January 3rd. I figured I would make you aware of this. If you are a subscriber, might as well just get more value from that Prime subscription. Let's see, we're starting with Dishonored 2, which is a great game there to pick up for the PC. Metal Slug, Metal Slug X, Metal Slug 3. Metal Slug are really fun games, and there you go, there's 3 of them there. Real Bout, Fatal Fury. The King of Fighters 2003, another classic. The Last Blade 2, Twinkle Star Sprites, and SNK 40th Anniversary Collection. Not bad. Again, these will be available for December 27th to January 3rd. Definitely recommend checking out Dishonored 2, some of the Metal Slugs, or even the Anniversary Collection there. If anything else, if you're a Prime subscriber, might as well take advantage, get more value out of that subscription. Oh, and we had just talked about how Insomniac could be preparing to show off more information for Spider-Man 2. But we did have the new trailer for Into the Spider-Verse 2 release yesterday, and people noticed an interesting cameo, which you can see the still shot that we have Culture Crave posting up on Twitter. It's at about the 1 minute, 25 second mark, and it looks like the suit from Spider-Man on PlayStation with Insomniac is in the movie, at least as a cameo appearance. I don't know if this Spider-Man suit will be like a big focus of the movie, as obviously there are a lot of different Spider-Man from different universes being thrown in here, as you'd expect for the movie, which, by the way, the trailer looks awesome. Now, the movie is coming out June 2023, and then I assume the game is going to come out a couple months later, maybe in September or October, so maybe there will be some sort of cross-promotion with it just because of their release timing, or maybe it'll just be a fun cameo for people who played the game. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and this new challenger when it comes to the Switch hacking scene. We can see this posted up. This is on Twitter. Started to kind of blow up online as people were talking about it a bit more, from Control Execute, who's known more so, I believe, in the PlayStation hacking scene, but they say $3 mod chip coming for Switch soon. Okay, so the cost of the mod chip, sure, because Nintendo has been pretty successful in knocking down mod chips just because they were being sold as ways to circumvent security of their system and their copywritten code and all these different things. But they go on to say Mariko compatible, OLED compatible, patched Arista not compatible. So the biggest thing here and why people are taking note is because obviously it would work on the OLED system, which the screen, massive upgrade there. People have been looking for ways, I'm sure, to modify and run unsigned code on it. But the thing that really surprised me a bit is they're using a Raspberry Pi to accomplish this. In fact, it's the RP2040 Currently, Raspberry Pis have gone up in price because of the chip shortage and the cost of parts just going up across the board. And it's unfortunate because the biggest thing about the Raspberry Pi is what it's able to do at a pretty low price, right? Like you can get a Raspberry Pi 4, at least before you could, for like 70 or 80 bucks for the one that has like the maxed out RAM, and it can basically emulate all kinds of stuff. In this case though, the RP2040 is a microcontroller used to run different commands and would be wired up to the switch and essentially just work to, I assume, interrupt boot or find some sort of vulnerability in the system it can exploit to run unsigned code. Now, there was a teaser video that was posted up. I'm not necessarily going to be showing it here because Nintendo, you know, they like to Nintendo, and they're pretty quick with the cease and desist on these things. But I will note, doesn't look like something that 99% of people will try. There are cables running all over the place. You have to solder to the RP2040 and then to different points on the board that looked fairly small. So it's soldering involved. It usually knocks out a bunch of people as it is, but then you get into soldering to smaller pins that goes a bit further there. I think it's more or less them being able to figure out how to use a Raspberry Pi in order to circumvent security on the OLED system that would probably take, or at least get, Nintendo's attention, because if you remember with the initial batch of the Switch, paper clips were used. Basically, like you bend it around, it touches points, and there you go, you can push a payload and modify the Switch, have it do all kinds of different things, like load up themes. Wow, what a concept. But Nintendo wasn't able to then go and say, okay, we're gonna stop the sale of staples. No, and they really can't do that with the Raspberry Pi either. They can't say, okay, we're just gonna stop the sale of all the Raspberry Pis, specifically the RP2040, because it's used for all kinds of different things, and in this instance, it would be used to modify the Switch. They could, of course, go around and try to stop the spread of information, and that is something Nintendo likes to attempt quite frequently. But as the internet likes to do, it does at least send information around pretty rapidly, and this could be something that gets out there before Nintendo is able to act. However, there is one thing to note here with Nintendo, as they have been taking part in that HackerOne program, paying out, I think, just over $250,000 so far since they signed up a couple of years ago to it. So it's also very possible that we don't necessarily have this hack released, and maybe a lot of this teasing and talk is being done to get Nintendo's attention so they can get some sort of payout from it. Always a possibility there. But as I mentioned, this is still not something that most people would actually attempt at home. It was one thing when it was a paperclip. Now we're talking about a Raspberry Pi or RP2040 that needs about 9 or 10 wires running to the board, and then you gotta figure out how to close it all up. It's more or less just I would say a proof of concept to show Nintendo that, yeah, that new chip you introduced with the red box Switch and is part of the OLED or the Switch Lite, not exactly equipped with unbreakable security. So, hey, maybe Nintendo works to act through firmware updates, or maybe they introduce a new chip altogether, as people are kind of expecting Nintendo to move to the next generation Switch in the next year or two, or maybe extend this one with a Pro model that would, yeah, change up the chip again. They did it with the original Switch. I guess they could do it here, but for now, yeah, a Raspberry Pi Zero is the next thing to hack the Switch. Next up, let's talk about Hogwarts Legacy. We were originally supposed to see it release this year and probably would have been playing it by now, but they did have to delay it into 2023, and we're still like 2 months out from it releasing. Well, the other versions of the game, specifically the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Switch version, were delayed even further into 2023, and now we have a bit of a release roadmap for the different versions of the game. We can see this posted up over on Twitter from Hogwarts Legacy, saying Hogwarts Legacy will launch on April 4th, 2023 for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I want to remind everyone very quickly that it is coming out on the PS5, Xbox Series X, S, and PC on February 10th. So right there, seeing about a 2-month delay from the PS5 Series X release. And on July 25th, 2023, for Nintendo Switch. It's about a 5.5-month delay for the Switch. Say the team is looking forward to bringing you the game, and we want to deliver the best possible game experience across all platforms. And looking online, there are a couple different ways people are looking at this. Is the optimistic route and the pessimistic route. Let's stick with the optimistic side. They're delaying the Switch version further so that they can have more time to work on it and release a more polished working product. Because people keep asking, this is not a streamed game through the cloud. This is going to be native on the Switch, and people heard that and they're like, really? This is gonna work on the Switch? Because the game itself does look really good in motion visually, and it seems like they're going for a pretty ambitious project here in the Harry Potter universe. So it working on the Switch could be one of those moments we've had with something like The Witcher 3, where it feels like that impossible port. Okay, so then on the pessimistic side, they're having a hard time with it and they just need more time to get it to a somewhat working condition. And the reason people are seemingly siding with that more and more is because we have seen it with games where they come out, even though they've been delayed further, and they're just busted. Obviously, something like Alan Wake being a recent example. I just think it's more of a shame that the Switch is still in this situation, 6 years in, where it gets the port later than the other versions. I kind of thought, okay, a lot of these studios initially were like, we saw what happened with the Wii U, we're gonna hang out and wait on the Switch. Bandai Namco very famously said that. Even the person who was running the Pokemon company at the time thought that the Switch would struggle out of the gate. And obviously, we look back on it now, and it continues to roll along. 114 million that have been recorded by Nintendo so far on their investors relations page. We assume it is much more than that now throughout the holidays. Yeah, hindsight being 2020, but I figured now we would have caught up to it with this much time of the system being out in development. But now it still gets late ports or just skipped over entirely. But Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch will certainly be a port that I think most people are curious to see how it turns out. Will it end up being a disaster in terms of performance, or could this be another Nier Automata situation where people have kind of lower expectations for how it'll turn out and then it ends up surprising everyone? Well, I guess we'll find out next summer, months after all the other versions are out. Next up, let's talk about that Microsoft, Activision Blizzard, Sony situation once again, as more and more information gets out there around the negotiations that have been going on. It's very public, more than you would expect, and the most recent one seemed to confuse a lot of people. It was from Bloomberg. We can see this posted up. This is from GamesIndustry.biz. Microsoft has offered Sony the right to include Call of Duty within its PlayStation Plus subscription service, Bloomberg reports. And this is apparently part of the 10-year deal that they were writing up. And it's mostly just more and more of the stipulations that seem to get out there as we've gone along. I kind of think it is Microsoft just putting it out there because you see sort of the public image around this, and most people are thinking, 10 years is a while to just give to Sony as, hey, we will definitely put this incredibly popular money-making game on your system going forward. In parity, it will be the same game. Might not get the same marketing, but it'll be the same game. We're just gonna have the Xbox logo next to it on all the different commercials. Well, this one with PlayStation Plus had people scratching their head because you figure the big advantage would be it'll be part of Game Pass day one, and it still would be, we assume. PlayStation Plus, though, means that Sony could have it there if they offer enough money. And I think that's the part that's not necessarily being brought up. It's the right to have it in PlayStation Plus. If you look through really a lot of the concerns from regulators, it does also come back to cloud and subscription services. They're wondering, will you block Sony's maybe negotiation potential with you and Activision Blizzard? Say they want to get some game from the Call of Duty maybe legacy library and put it into PlayStation Plus Premium or their extra tier, any of that, because they have done this before. Remember, they've given away things like, what, Black Ops 4, I think, in PlayStation Plus. This has happened. So would you block that if you owned Activision Blizzard? And Microsoft, I guess just part of it is like, no, it'll be in there the right for you to put it into PlayStation Plus if you meet the correct criteria with the amount that you bring to the table. And I think on Sony's side, that doesn't change much because the price point could be too high for it to make sense for them anyway. And really, as soon as Sony accepts one of these deals from Microsoft, the 10-year deal, maybe a 15-year deal, who knows? To me, it's basically over with regulators, and then there's no one like loudly opposing the deal, so it'll have more of a reason to go through. And Sony, I think, is just gonna throw up the brick wall as long as they can. Even if some of these deals come through and they sound absolutely crazy with 10, 15, 20-year deals, I think at this point, Sony is gonna hold steady here and just see what happens with the FTC, as they are the ones now moving to sue and block Microsoft from this deal. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Mario Strikers Battle League. I was curious what kind of updates this game would get, since it did launch with very, very little amounts of content, a head-scratching setup for the online where you can just have really 2 Switch systems per room to matchmaking go online with, despite having a party of 4 players on the field for a team. Well, we did get our final free update, which we can see posted up by this one by Nintendo UK, because they did use the wording here saying the final free update for Mario Strikers Battle League Football arrives Wednesday. It's out now essentially, but it had Bowser Jr., had Birdo, pretty cool, some new items for the shop when it comes to the gear that you can equip and all of this. And yeah, that's kind of it. They didn't really add a ton of content. I mean, they added extra characters, but realistically, those characters probably could have been there at launch. And technically, it got 6 months of support, and it appears that's the final free update. Does make me wonder if they have paid updates coming, and that would be a little, I'm gonna use the word frustrating, considering the state that it launched in, and the fact that they haven't really done much to address or maybe improve the online play when it comes to the community settings, especially with 4 Switches in a room to matchmake online. To me, that just makes the most sense, and the game just doesn't play well when you have 2 people in a room. You essentially have to have 2 people per Switch to have that 4-person team, and it's just really, really head-scratching and frustrating to deal with there. Very annoying. So unfortunate to see what happened with Mario Strikers Battle League, as no substantial content was really added at all. Who knows? Maybe they'll sell it to us in a paid-for expansion. What a world that would be. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if a game you want is announced to be coming out later on Switch than other consoles, do you wait to pick it up on Switch? 53% say no, I just buy it on the platform that gets the game first. 29% say yes, I can wait to pick it up, or Switch is my only option. 18% said no, but I do double dip for the Switch version later at times. I understand some people have the Switch as like that hybrid concept is very, very important to them, especially if maybe you can't always play on the TV and it's like, oh, I can run through what's probably going to be a very large, sizable game, definitely a big experience when it comes to the time that will be invested in it. And yeah, it might just work a bit better on the Switch for you, but it is frustrating, obviously, to have to wait so long for it to come to the Switch when it'll already be available on other platforms. And it's just been a trend that's continued throughout the Switch's life. Maybe when we go to that next generation system, more of these publishers and developers are willing to get started on it immediately, maybe even before that, because it wasn't a problem when it comes to dev kit availability, as Nintendo made it pretty cheap to get them and they were just sending them out all over the place. It was more or less developers and publishers' lack of confidence in the Switch after what they saw with the Wii U. Well, with this system potentially eyeing the PS2 even for the best selling console ever, I assume there won't be any issues when it comes to confidence for whatever Nintendo has next, but I guess we'll see. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Lunar saying, I like how the interview seemingly was them asking, what is this game? And Miyazaki saying, it's Armored Core, but new. I noticed that a lot, this interview, and people just talking about it online and on YouTube and stuff. It's like, is this Armored Core, but the Souls version of Armored Core? And in the interview, like, no, it's just Armored Core. Okay, but what did you learn from those Souls games that you're bringing into this? And they're like, money mostly, the money we made from those to be able to develop and spend more time and resources on it. It's like, okay, but what gameplay aspects are you taking from these Souls games to put in Armored Core? And they're like, not much, it's Armored Core. FromSoft is to a point now where if they make a game most people assume it's going to be a Souls-like experience, but in this case, no. It's gonna be an Armored Core-like experience, and I think that's great. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's the Raspberry Pi apparently working to hack into the Switch. Do you think that'll actually be any substantial problem for Nintendo, or do you think they have a new chip or even system in the works anyway? And then also, what about Hogwarts Legacy being delayed out 5 months from the PS5 and Xbox Series version? Or are you gonna wait for that Switch version of Hogwarts Legacy? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.